And I would say, let's start. So it's a pleasure to have you with us today, David. And for those of us who are listening in, David is, well, he will introduce himself in a minute himself, but he is also the co-founder of Hacked Matter, Maker Collider, and Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab. And it's a pleasure to have you with us and to hear and chat with you about open source hardware. So we would love it if you could introduce yourself a little bit and tell us how you got into open source hardware.
Sorry.
Good.
No, someone just opened my door. Okay, I'm back. Hi, everyone. Yeah, it's great to be here. So my name is David Lee. I'm currently in Shanghai, China. I got into open source a long time ago on the software side since the 90s. I really got into the open source hardware when I co-founded the first makerspace in China in 2010. And along the same times, and this is bring us a little bit to the topic of TFF. I also starting to get into working on aquaponics. So and through the maker space, we started the think tanks called Hacked Matter to look into how innovation happen and what drives the crazy growth of economy in China. And one thing we look at is the power of this very open, cooperated ecosystem, which builds up a foundation of projects, components, so people in different places can adopt them to different situations. And by everybody contribute to the common base, this is driving a very fast growth in terms of the scale, the impact. And this is not just something proprietary to a single company. And so for the past 10 years, we have been working on is advocating how this kind of models can be beneficial to startup, to build things who actually makes impact. So I think one of the big things, and in 2015, we got an opportunity with a partner in Shenzhen, and with the support of the Shenzhen government, we started the Shenzhen Open Innovation Lab. And a couple of things we do in the lab is we continue to look at how open innovation ecosystem work, and not just in Shenzhen, but across China, and promoting the ideas of open source, very open development, and then how team can leverage the very open ecosystem here to help them to get to deliver their projects. And I met with TFF probably 2 years ago, and I was a speaker in the event in Rio, and it was a great 1 week spending over there. And I think full productions, other than on one hand we are looking at fancy technology, we are looking at the what could be next, but food is also something essential. Food is also something we never want two companies to hold all the patent on the food. And right now I think we are looking at a very, especially sitting in China in the past years, it is very interesting is everybody heard about the US-China trade war. And one of the biggest topic in there is soybean. Mm-hmm. And when we starting to look at this one crop, which is hugely consumed in Asia, not so much in the West. Well, it's getting more because of the plant-based protein right now is becoming a thing. But we joke about when it comes to Asia, it's just tofu.
Yeah, fair enough.
And then we're starting to look at this huge global industrialized food system and how terrible are they working, how much they are not, because we can how much they are subjecting to international conditions. Right now, probably read a story, the soybean grower in Ohio is having serious trouble, and because China shifting to importing soybean from Brazil. And now then we got story about burning down the forest, the Amazon forest, the soybean production. This is all indication of we have for too long starting to thinking about agricultures as a traditional capitalism, to have a concentration of production, concentration of everything. When in nature we should have more distributed agricultural production, guarantee food security for more people. So we're really happy to engage this kind of conversation between how openness can work for agricultures.
Yeah, and I mean, you've just mentioned so many of kind of the buzzwords we like to use at TFF and like our beliefs. So especially, you know, having an impact, being open about it, sharing it, peer-to-peer learning, like all of that is like embodied in open source hardware and is so much of what TFF stands for and why we kind of build this community of change makers, and we really make sure that they get connected to each other so that we can have the biggest impact possible. So it's really, really great to hear from you about what you've been doing. And so I guess let's start from the beginning to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Could you give us a definition of open source hardware, please?
I think there are two. So on the I think on the software side, it's much easier to define. You get the access to the computer code, the computer source code to the projects, and that's pretty much it. For open source hardware, it's layer. So we look at things has been becoming commodities, and whether or not the thing that when it become commodities, what I mean by commodity is without restriction, anybody can buy them on the market freely. Everybody can acquire them on the market freely. So one thing to look at is a lot of practice here, even though they are not preparing document, cleaning and releasing the code, releasing everything on the project, but at least on top of it, that's a very that's a very good layers of the things we can get from multiple suppliers, and thing we can look at from the thing we can get from multiple suppliers, and it can be freely modified and be adapted to specific need of the projects. So yeah. Just in more abstract is the really pushing these ideas of the technology are commodities. One example I like to use, and this is actually came out when I was at a talk in Brazil, is what is commodities. Coffee bean is commodities.
Yes.
And I think everybody in their back of mind always want to own a small cafe. So we can drink all the coffee for free. But we never ask anyone who wants to open a coffee shop about whether or not they know how to grow coffee. Because coffee, even though growing coffee, making coffee is location, a lot of the experience, a lot of the investment. but coffee bean itself is a commodities. So we wanting to move technology to that layer of well, I think for the past few decades, one of the big things about the development of China is especially the development of Shenzhen, we managed to move the conversation of technologies from everybody needs to build everything from scratch to we can abstract up the layer, and then different people can come in and finding which layer they are most comfortable with, and get things started fast. So my definition of open source hardware is a little bit more probably broader than most of the makers would think about it, but that's something which actually makes more interesting sense in terms of the hardware is a physical products. They are not like software which can be transmitted with almost no cost. A piece of hardware needs a cooperation between the designer, the engineers, the productions, the logistics, everything's to work together. But on the flip side is the hardware lead itself to a very good cooperation model, especially in a global platform like TFF. Agricultures, we all need things. There are things we need are very common across regions, and by being able to pull together the knowledge, the know-how, and build on the common platform, we can help to driving down the cost, make it more widely available. So yeah, I mean, in the past couple of years, we have been seeing projects coming into Shenzhen and have very beautiful cooperations. One of the project I met is this project called the Tro Tro Tractor.
Okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, the Tro Tro Tractor is based in Ghana.
Ghana, okay, right.
So in Ghana, tractor is expensive resource. And the farmer wants to share the tractors. But one thing you need to do to get the sharing of the tractor is to be able to know where it is. So the teams needs a GPS tracker, and rather than having engineer trying to figure out how to design a waterproof, long-lasting GPS tracker from scratch, the team actually just teamed up with a company here who makes GPS trackers, and then they work together to customize them for their need. And so now Tro Tro is it's great. And the other thing is the same device is available to anyone who wants to get inspired to actually run the same kind of program. So this leads to interesting is the because Tro Tro actually make a very good name for themselves, and I think it has inspired people in different locales to do the same thing.
Yeah, I can imagine. It's brilliant.
Yeah. And
yeah.
Go on.
No, do go on. Do go on.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of this is because of the open source software has been becoming very concentrated, but the hardware side actually would become much more interesting because we are really seeing the possibility of people in different locale. We can share the idea, we can share the supply. Even though we are in the same business, we are never competitors. I mean, we particularly, I think at this call, we now have 16 people. We probably in every continent possible.
Yes,
so
we do. Yeah. We are spanning the globe, yes, which is lovely.
Yeah. So, and it's great to starting to have this opportunity to look at a ways to promoting and sharing this kind of resource.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also, we are at the very unprecedented time where technology has becoming such a common goods. They become easy to construct.
Mm-hmm.
So we did a very interesting experiment last year.
Mm-hmm.
The let me try to remember. There is this Robotics released by a team from EPFL in Switzerland.
Okay.
It's called Eco Robotics. It's actually I'm probably Google it and show a picture of that robots.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this robots is created to address a problem people have with organic farming. I mean, one of the most one of the most tedious things about organic farming is to taking out the weed. And typically this has to be done by hand.
Yeah.
But in the past 10 years, we have been, I mean, we have advanced so much in terms of our in terms of the advancement in open robotics and in all the component available to open source. So last year we decided to do an experiment. We put together a team, a group about a group of 10, 13 years old kids.
Okay.
We show them a picture, we show them a video of Eco Robotics.
Right.
We tell them now go and try to make one of it. Try to be one.
Yeah.
And we have we support the team with some money and then some mentoring. And they actually managed to build one, basically spending a couple hours every week. They actually managed to build one in about 3 months.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, let me get the video of the those of what I did. And it's interesting. It's and then the project gets the project can be open source, and anyone who wants to do a similar things can just take the projects and repeat it. So I think we are at a very interesting time where a lot of these robotics and AI technologies, they are very open. They can be very helpful in terms of the, they can be very helpful in terms of the agricultures. But because the lack of visibility, I think people are starting, we have a lot of the group, we have a lot of group who's doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, there are a lot of needs. People are looking at agricultural sensors. Then we continue to see project coming in, try to build everything from scratch, which is expensive, costly, and end up the whatever gets produced is not cost efficient to be actually used in agricultures. So, and it's great to see TFF just announced a joint, a cooperation with Wikifactory, and hopefully this is the beginning of us be able somewhere we can contribute to the same we can have a global cooperation on the use for open source hardware.
Yes,
And,
exactly.
yeah, and I think there's a question. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned Wikifactory. So just for those of you, if you don't know, through the Digital Labs, you're able to access Wikifactory, and we have a collaboration with them, as David just mentioned. And Wikifactory, I'm going to ask David to explain what it is, because I'm sure he'll do a better job than I could. But it's basically where you can find lots and lots of open source tools and materials for you to use, so do explore it. But my question for David is, could you tell us what Wikifactory is, please? And you're...
Yeah, so I think a lot of people who experience, well, thinking about it, Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a place everybody comes cooperating on informations, writings. On the software side, there's website like GitHub,
yeah,
which is used for
like codes, yeah. And yeah,
which is very useful in terms of the source code, software source code.
Yeah.
And when it comes to hardware, it needs another different platforms to be able to document different kind of product, different kind of the process of constructing that piece of hardware. And so Wikifactory is platforms designed to host cooperative projects on open hardware.
Perfect. Great. Thank you. So before we kind of go into a little bit more on how to make things open source, can you tell us, so a lot of our teams, obviously they're early stage startups who have come up with something brilliant and now want to put it on the market, and they're hoping to make money from it and to kind of, you know, take the fame of their products onwards. So what is the benefit of making it open source?
Well, I mean, the first is to try to build this on open source, at least build this on open. I mean, going to the market is a lot of things, and right now I think the term is continue to be used a lot these days. Is how do you build an MVP? How do you do a minimal viable products?
Yes.
And one thing the open source project enable is to help that process. I mean, right now, if you are looking at building an internet connected farm with sensors, don't worry about stop worry about making it from scratch. Right. Try to have. You see a lot of teams get excited, starting to design their own circuit board, but at the end, as that's not really the team's core competence. Those things can be acquired on the market as commodities. It's really figuring out how to use them. Be able to measure humanity. Be able to measure this use in be able to measure temperature, humidity, wind speed. It's not hard. It's what you can do to deliver value to the farmer with that data. But I think right now a lot of projects, because the interest in engineering, and how to really deliver value to the farmer is always the hard questions.
Yeah.
So I think try to get started, try to center the team in terms of the building. This is about to finding the right people to deliver the value to. And once you crack the code, leverage open source to start it as fast as possible, to try to it's much better for your customer if you can deliver the system, the value, in 2 weeks. If you can deliver 80% of functionality in 2 weeks at a good cost, rather than spending the next 12 months try to deliver 100% functionality at 50 times the cost. So it's everything. I mean, for startup, everything is an iterative process.
Mm-hmm.
So try to use the tool to speed up your iterations rather than try to get to things perfect at the first. And I think a lot of team working on the software understand, well, they can do this with fast iteration, lean startup, agile development. And one thing here is actually you can do the same thing with hardware.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's brilliant. I mean, I'm kind of mind blown because I didn't realize how much there is. So how much is there on these platforms? Like, is it almost, hard to invent something new because there is already so much that is also documented? Or is it still kind of early stage and there's not that much that you can tap into, but it will now grow?
I think the Wiki Factory is in terms of accumulation of the farming, the agriculture related project is just getting started.
Mm-hmm.
But there are already a lot of different projects scattered around the web, and they're actually very easy to tap into.
Yeah.
And that's also the other one I really like, and this is another thing I'm trying to work on, is the China's Central Television Channel 7. It's a channel dedicated to agricultures.
Okay.
And they make very interesting episode on all sort of different farming, all sort of different farming method, and also the different agricultural project ideas. Right now, the only bad thing is it's in Chinese only.
Hi there, I'm Jeff.
We are trying to look at how to extract. Trying to look at how to extracting the subtitle out of it, and then right now, thanks to AI, we can just run the subtitle through the AI for translations.
Yeah.
I'm going to share the channel in the chat, and this is one thing about agriculture in China. Projects, new technologies, new project ideas are being shared nationwide through one of through the Central Television.
Perfect. It's really interesting to hear that you have a whole channel dedicated to agriculture, because certainly the countries I've lived in have not had that. So it's great.
I'm obsessed with the channels. I will show some. So when I was looking at the episode of people raising, people raising shrimp, the sea shrimp. In inland deserts in China, with recirculating aquacultures. And the 30 minutes whole program, they actually show how the thing is constructed, what they use, why they do what they do, and that's the kind of things there's no harm to share that kind of information, and I found the people in agricultures are very open. Agriculture is a very local business.
Yeah.
Now, unless we live next door to each other, we're never competitors. And that kind of idea sharing, that kind of But traditionally, if we don't, for agricultures, if we are not in the same place,
That's true.
we never know. We never know. We never know how each other practice. But now we have platforms to share that kind of practice.
Yeah, which is perfect. So if I now have a great idea and I've just been inspired by what you said and go on Wikifactory, find that there is a design that I would love to use, what do I need to do? Do I just take it and go with it, or do I need to register something? How does it work?
Yeah, I mean that's what open source project is. They all licensed under a very open source license, which just means you can just take the projects and take it and realize it and use it for your own purpose, whether it's private use or commercial use. That's very open to that.
Okay, that's brilliant. But then on the other hand, if I put my design on Wikifactory, how do I know who's using it? Can I track that somehow?
I mean that you probably get you probably get people who will send feedback. But I mean the good thing about putting the project out there is the open it up. You get to share. You get to get feedback, and get to see how people using it. Get to see how people improve on it. So yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's really about kind of community as well, right? And this growing it together, building it together, reiterating it together. So again, say I put something on Wikifactory, for example, you pick it up, you make it better or turn it into something else, right? You use it and adjust it for your own use. Can you then, do you put your details on there as well? And are they somehow linked to mine? Like, is there a way to track how it progressed? Because that would be really exciting to see, right?
Yeah, but right now it's mostly done at the per project community base. So yeah, so different projects can. I mean, it's a you basically people using that you can reach out to them and have a conversations. And I think one big part of this is this tool is a ways to accumulate community. It's not so much as about, I mean, right now, I think the technology has been pushing too far by people who hate people. So that's why you never get a phone number from any Google problem, or you can never get a phone number from Facebook. I mean, well, Facebook is the worst example. They hate people so much. Now they are even creating a chatbot for their employee to answer the season greeting from the family. That's not what we want to use technology for. We really want that open source to be something to bring people together. So we can have conversation, we can have discussion, and we can facilitate cooperations. So yeah, so I think that's the better way to use the platform.
Oh, for sure, yeah. But I'm still a little bit stuck on the fact that it does seem to need people like you who are enthusiastic about sharing and the openness and the collaborative spirit. And I'm just like, my fear is that I put a great design on there and a large corporate sees it, takes it, produces it, mass produces it, it's gone. What do I get? Whereas if I'd kept it close, I could have maybe sold it to them and made my millions. Or you know, there's
Well, I would suggest. I mean, I think a lot of people have these ideas of if I don't show this if I keep how it works secrets, the big corporate cannot figure it out, and they all have to buy from me. But this is really how real things get practiced. Let's say you have inventions, and there's a great book to read if you are very interested on this subject, it's called Democratized Innovations by Eric Van Hippel of MIT.
Okay.
So typical corporations, large corporation, if you engineer something, you go to them, pitching the ideas,
Yeah.
and let's say even you apply patents on that already. The big corporate, they look at the ideas. By the way, here's one thing is that you cannot patent an idea. You can only patent the implementation of an idea.
Yeah.
So what they typically do is they go out and they hire 4 design firms and tell them the ideas.
Yeah.
And tell them to go back and implement the ideas. And then when they come back, well, 2 of them probably violating your patent. And the other 2 is a fresh new take on how this works. The corporate pay for it. It's the work for hire. They own the copyright and patent everything. And so instead of you thinking about they don't know how to do it and try to keep it secret, it's not only they know how to do it, now they own patent on it and they can sue you. So that's how things happen. And then the reason to read the book, Democratized Innovations, is this kind of scenario. Lone inventors invented some things and sell it to the big corporate. It hasn't happened for 30 years.
Okay.
So that's where, unless you build a business, the corporate acquire another company. The corporate doesn't go out and acquire an idea. So that's the. So I think a lot of people, when they think about open source, a fear of we think about this as lost opportunity, something potential, but the chance of that happen, if you want to be rich by doing that, a much better way is just to spend $5 a month to buy lottos. You probably get rich faster.
All right. Okay. Well, I guess, but could I use it? So if I publish, some nice designs and that I've come up with, could I use it to build up my name? Would that do, does that happen where they then know, oh, okay, Marie has published these great things. Let's see if we can hire her or something like that. Does that happen?
Actually, in terms of open source hardware, there's a very interesting French co-op. Let me try to find them. They open source all of their design. They open source all of their design of the agricultural machine. But the group actually make money by doing training, and also on the other things is they also do another things, which is people don't think about how you can make money with open source projects. As they basically run a group buy of the components.
Okay.
Typically, this is the beauty of hardware. The more you buy, the cheaper each unit is. So by aggregating everybody's need, they are able to buy the part cheaper, and then along with the training, they're becoming sustainable. They become sustainable real quick. I'll share in the group a write-up about how their practice work. And I think a lot of agricultural ideas, they come out and they solve a particular local problem. And in terms of how to scale this big through open source, the openness makes name. And on top of that, you can provide in training, consulting service, and sell components. Not every open source project has to make things from scratch, and that's the idea. There are a lot of good practice on this. So I mean, yeah. For example, I just see someone mentioned he's working on hydroponic aquaponics. Actually, in the world of aquaponics, this practice has been very, very effective. People shoot YouTube video about how they construct the aquaponics system, make them for themselves, and they get asked for providing training, they get asked for providing consultation, and then they get asked, well, I see all the things you buy, but I don't know how so I'm lazy. Could you make a kit? And so I can buy everything, come home, assemble it like IKEA. And yeah, I mean, one interesting part is for open source hardware is you would be surprised how much money you can make from people's laziness.
I probably would, but I would probably also be a person who would absolutely spend my money because I'm too lazy. So yes. Okay, so we have another question as well from Clement, who's into precision organic farming and thinks this eco-robotics would be very useful that you mentioned earlier from Switzerland. How could he benefit from it in his business?
Yeah, so I sent a video of the group of kids who make that knockoff of the eco robotics. They will soon be uploading that to the TFF Wikipedia site. So if you want, you can replicate it, the machines, and also and also there's a lot of rethinkings. We are thinking about a lot of things used in agriculture. I think there's a lot of things used in agriculture. They can starting to benefit from what we have in the modern day. And so one side project I have been thinking about, but haven't got a chance to get started, is autonomous tractors.
Yeah.
So I mean, people love to talk about autonomous car, but I mean, autonomous car on the busy street is suicidal anyway. But one thing is the part about us having to build a tractor to become bigger and bigger is the tractor to become bigger and bigger is we have fewer and fewer people working in the farm. That's why we need to build the tractor bigger, because at the end of the day, someone has to sit on the tractor and control it. But with the current computation power we have, with all the technology we have open source out there, we can actually build small tractors and build many of them and have them work on having them work on the farm at the same time. And this is much more beneficial to this will be beneficial to farmers who want to leverage technology. Actually, before I came on the show, there was a very interesting news. Right now, right now in the U.S., the new John Deere tractors is about $200,000. But they have a very terrible problem a while back in terms of they are very computer control, proprietary, and people has to be certified, getting the certified technicians to come and fix if the tractor has any problem.
Yeah.
So probably a year ago, there was a very funny story about U.S. Midwest farmer buying jailbreak programs to jailbreak their John Deere tractors so they can fix it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the John Deere told them they have to wait for 3 months for their technician to be available.
Yeah.
And so So the new news is the John Deere started to computerize their tractors probably in the 90s. So now the pre-90 John Deere tractors is the hardest items for the Midwest farmer. They buy the old tractor for $15,000, and they put on they basically put on the put on the satellite navigation system themselves to remote control the tractors.
That's
and
brilliant.
this is another practice of open source, very open kind of practice. And you can actually, when you Google online, you can actually find people has great descriptions on how do you do satellite navigations. How do you build a satellite navigation system for tractors? So there's already a lot of open source practice in terms of agriculture, but kind of a lot of time they have been brushing off as, oh yeah, if some farmer can do it, it's not that interesting. But that's exactly what makes them interesting. Is when we are living at a time where a Midwest farmer in the U.S. can buy a 20 years old tractors and be able to get enough information on YouTube to make the tractor satellite guided remote control. We are living in a totally different world in terms of the agricultural technology.
Yeah, it's brilliant, and I'm so excited to see where it's going. And that kind of leads me nicely into a question that Jabulo just asked. She asked, so you mentioned YouTube videos, there's obviously the stuff on Wikifactory, but how do you assess the correctness of the information? How do you know that things work? Is there a system? Does someone check? How does it work?
Well, I mean, agriculture is a time-tested practice. You come from experience, and you starting to test them. I mean, agriculture is a time-tested iteration process. That's how crop gets crossed to produce better result. I mean, farmers are the earliest hackers. I mean, you plant different things. You experimental with different water, fertilizer. There's a huge amount of experimenting spirit in agricultures. And so having place to share this, making local knowledge global, and be able to apply a global knowledge to a local context. And I think that's the excitement of this open cooperation.
Nice. You've used, funnily enough, so at TFF we use the word glocal a lot, which is like a solution that works locally, but that we then we take the global mindset and all of that, and that's a lot of what you've just said, which is brilliant. And yeah, it's great examples that you're giving us. I'm really enjoying this. Okay, that's gone. So I'm just looking at the questions that are coming in, which are great. I've answered that one. How can we get any example businesses which are using their data? I don't know whose data you mean, Martin. If you could rewrite that question, Martin, that would be great, because I'm not sure what data you mean. If that was about a specific example that we mentioned, that'd be great to know. So yeah, I mean, I want to just go on Wikifactory and see everything that's on there, but I'll also just say there are loads of courses on the Digital Labs about open source hardware, and there are some great examples from the agricultural sector on there as well. There's one, it's like an open drone platform. There's one, it's like an open like weather station. So there are examples on the Digital Labs as well for you already to have a look at, that we've highlighted for you, that are relevant to agriculture and a lot of what you guys do. Yeah, I think so. Right. So basically, I feel like what you've said is, there's basically no drawback to sharing your data, and it can, or your projects and your details, and it can be taken into something completely different that you maybe haven't even considered yet. Like, do you have an example where someone posted something and then it's been used by someone else and kind of turned into another solution where it was a use that they hadn't even considered in the first sense?
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of them. Well, I mean, that example, you will see a lot of the, I mean, I think right now the most visible one online is people who practice in hydroponics and aquaponics.
Yeah.
Actually, a lot of information we have on the practice of hydroponics, on the aquaponics, comes from the practice of hydroponics. And that the best websites to look for hydroponic open knowledge is a website called 420 Magazine.
Right.
It's a 30 years accumulation of knowledge by people who grow pots.
Okay.
But there's a huge amount of the information, agricultural knowledge, especially on their contribution to the advancement of hydroponics in the past 2 decades. So, and that's entire. I mean, in through the histories, in most places, growing marijuana is not legal, but they managed to actually have a huge subculture of open and sharing, and actually advancing technology. So I think there are a lot of those examples in terms of the cooperation and contributions. I just post a links of this French co-op, how they open the platforms and how people in different places interact, advance the design. They are very good stories, and by the way, their product is also very awesome. Anyone can go. They have a very good, interesting practice. So one thing is they do this for the farmer. I think it's shared in here. If not, I will find it. So there was another co-op who tried to publish the data of their design, but none of them knows how to use CAT. None of them and they don't really access that much computers. So what they end up doing is they lay out a big piece of papers on the ground and starting to trace the outline of the thing they design, and then picture and measurement, and upload the picture online. And then someone online say, okay, well, I know how to use CAT. So they help them to take that picture of the piece of papers into a CAT file. And that's very, very, I mean, again, as a maker and hackers, that's why I love agricultures, because really something, it's really something, it's a place, agriculture is a place where people are comfortable in sharing tips, sharing information, sharing practice.
That's true.
And it should comes to very natural to the to the practitioner in these areas.
You've given us so many great examples. It's been brilliant. I lost it. I had something I wanted to say, but it's gone. Doesn't matter. No, I can't find it in my notes either, but never mind. No, but thanks so much for everything. So I think we'll kind of, what I wanted to say, there we go, I found it, was that I think in agriculture, because the goal of what we're doing is to feed others and ourselves, I think that in itself is already like a selfless place to start, whereas I think other industries are so much more about making money and making like your own gain. that I think that's why also, yeah, Food and Ag works in this platform. And there's so much going on at the moment, like you say, with aquaponics and hydroponics, and that's where I've seen so much content as well on how to grow it. And really, yeah, just the links are just, yeah, everybody is like interlinked from the entire globe who's working on it. That's how I feel, and it's so brilliant. So I really look forward to seeing where these open hardware solutions go. And I hope that some of our teams got inspired today to have a look at Wikifactory and to see if you can use it for your project. I've just posted the link again in the chat, where you can find a lot of material on the Digital Labs about open source hardware. David, thanks so much for joining us. Do you have any final comments, words of inspiration, anything like that for our teams? Although you've given them plenty already.
Yeah, I mean, I love to see. It's great to participate here, and yeah, we'd love to have more conversations. And I'll leave my email in the chat. If you have anything I can help, just feel free to drop me an email.
Perfect. Thanks so much. I'm sure the teams will massively appreciate that. And I hope to see you in Malaysia, because I think, are you going to come visit us there?
Yeah, I heard about the event. When is it?
It's the, I was going to say 21st, but that's the Academy when it starts. It's the 26th or so, something like that. We'll follow up with you to look into it. But yeah.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thanks so much, and have a great evening. And thank you everybody who joined the call.
Yeah, thank you everyone. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye.